Ready?
Go.
Yep. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's morning docket. Today's Thursday, May 23rd, 2019. This morning we'll have a split docket, regular items and violations. When your case is called, please be prepared to step up to the microphone, state your name, and if you're going to be giving testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in. If you have a phone or other electronic device, I would ask that you please silence it or put it on vibrate now. Mr. Chair, may I call some preliminary matters?
Yes, sir.
Amaris Abba and Amals Nagas, HYN Entertainment LLC. This was a violation of Rule 3.08B, Sanitation and Safety, and 4.08A, Relations with Wholesalers, and 4.17, Storage. This matter has been postponed and will be rescheduled at a future date. Stephen Stansberry, the One Sports Bar Lounge LLC, trading as the One Sports Bar Lounge, located at 4314 through 16 Curtis Avenue. This case has been postponed, will be reset at a later date. Calling the first case on the morning docket, Mayor Savalia and Thomas Thong, 7207 Harford Road, Incorporated, trading as Mueller's Deli, 7205 through 07 Harford Road. This is a Class A beer, wine, liquor license, an application to transfer ownership, a board to rehear a matter specifically concerning an issue identified during the issuance process.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudensky representing the applicant licensees.
Good morning, Mr. Kudensky. Would everyone who plans to testify please raise your right hand?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Now, we are being recorded, so please, when you speak, please speak and come to the mic. Mr. Kudensky?
This is, these applicants were approved by the board in December from Mueller's, and they were going through the process. The problem arose that the Mueller family, for whatever reason, objected to them using the Mueller name. What they didn't know is that they weren't going to use the trade name, but they incorporated under Mueller's Inc., which Mueller's didn't have. They raised such a stink that they had to refile under 7200, whatever it is right now, and it's all the same people. It's approved. They have the same agreement with the community. The community had a prior agreement, but it was with the same people, but the corporate name was Mueller's Inc. They're doing an amendment, no problem, they have it.
What's the new name?
The new name is 7207 Inc.
Inc.
They took the path of least resistance.
I thought it was 7207 Hartford Road, Inc.
We'll add the Hartford Road.
All right, so the new name of the entity is 7207 Harford Road, Inc. Is that
Correct.
correct? That's the applicant, correct?
Same licensees.
Same licensees.
Approved before. They have about 90% of their all their approvals, but it was thought best that they come back in front of the board. They got an amendment with the community.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Do you have a copy
Yes,
of the amendment?
Yes, my name is Lisa Daniels. I'm the president of the North Hartford Road Community Association. And here is a copy, a signed original of amending the original agreement. I have a copy of the original agreement here too, but that should be in the file, and I believe it is record.
It should be, but if you have a copy of that, it would be glad to
No,
have
I've
it.
got it right here.
You got one?
I got a
so
copy.
much.
It's the signed one, so yes.
Ms. Daniels and Mr. Hilliard, with the amendment to the agreement, are you withdrawing your opposition?
We never had opposition. We were originally in support of the transfer
It does-
at the initial hearing.
You have to state your name real quickly.
Mike Hilliard,
That's my mistake.
Community Services Director, Hardbell.
And I know you so well, I just know you as Mike. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Okay, so you don't have any opposition, my mistake.
No,
And
the
so-
opposition was prior to us signing the agreement. But once
Right.
we signed the agreement, we no longer had any opposition to the transfer.
And Mr. Kudensky, I presume that your clients have no problem with the,
No, they signed it, and like I say, it was just because of the fact that they had to change their corporate entity. They had to go through this.
thank you. Is there anything further, Commissioners?
Nothing further.
Okay. With that, based upon the evidence before us, the proffer by Mr. Kudensky, I would vote to approve the transfer of ownership subject to the terms of the memorandum of understanding to the extent it's enforceable by law?
I concur based on for the same reasons, and vote to approve the transfer of ownership with the understanding that the MOU will be a condition on the license to the extent that it is enforceable by law.
I also concur with the approval based on the information given.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Michael Exhibits for the record, Community Exhibit 1, MOU Amendment.
Calling the next case, Jason Jiao and Sohil Santos, Josh Management Incorporated, trading as 1010 Ramen, 413 North Charles Street, is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. A request to reopen under the provisions of the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-2203, when a licensed premise has been closed for at least 3 consecutive months, and a 180-day hardship extension under the provisions of the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-2202.
For the record, again, Melvin J. Kaninsky representing the licensee.
All right, sir, if you'd raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the answers that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. This was a request that originally started last year, and the place is right across from where the cathedral is in that same block. And they've been there for a while, and they needed to do some work, and then they asked for a hardship extension. They were getting towards the end of the 180 days, so they opened on December the 20th. They had an event for their employees and other people there and generated income, and as a result of which, then they stopped again. They want to reopen, so not only do they need the 90 days to be approved to reopen, but also a hardship extension, because they're just about finished doing what they were doing. And they didn't know at the beginning when they opened in December that they needed to come to the board and ask them for that. They were just trying to protect what they had because they had been there for a while.
But they understand now that they need to come before the board for a request to reopen.
They're here because it goes back to that once bitten, twice shy.
That's right. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right, based upon the proffer by Mr. Kudensky, I would grant the request for hardship extension and the request to reopen.
I concur and grant the request for a hardship extension and the request to reopen.
I concur.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
No exhibits.
Call-
You know which ones to take. Thanks.
Calling Leonard J. Popa, Club 438 Incorporated, trading as Sooners Tavern, 1600 Hazel Street. Is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, and a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct, both on January 24th, 2019.
Everyone who intends to testify on this matter, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And sir, your name?
My name's Gary Scher. I'm here because Mr. Popa has taken ill, and I've been helping him out. I'm very much aware of all the events that had happened at the bar.
Are you a manager with the establishment, or what's your relationship to this?
I'm a close friend of him, of Leonard's, but I've been, on top of all this incident here.
Okay, so
I've worked along with the police department, given them the video, and the barmaids and everything as to what had transpired.
so you're here you're here to represent.
Yes, yes, he's not well.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Now, would you do you admit or do you deny these charges?
I deny the
Deny
charges.
the charges.
Yes.
Okay. Whoever's going to testify, please come up to the mic and state your name, sir.
Detective L.C. Greenhill, Vice Social Club Task Force. On 24 January of this year at 12:30 a.m., myself, along with Liquor Agent Chris Malice from the Baltimore City Liquor Control Board, responded to 1600 Hazel Street, identified as Sooners Tavern, for a report of a shooting. The shooting call was received at 12:06 a.m. Upon our arrival, Southern District Patrol units were already on the scene, along with shooting detectives. Bartenders only identified as Amber and Jennifer that were working in the bar had already been transported to the office of citywide shootings for questioning. According to the officers from the Southern District, a female customer was seated inside the bar when unknown suspects entered the establishment and shot her. She was transported to an area hospital for treatment. The victim was later identified as Lakina Mitchell Sewell, female, black, 29 years of age. Licensee Leonard J. Popper was not present, but Dante Summers, who said he was the new owner and licensee, arrived on scene to assume responsibility and to assist Southern District Patrol units, as well as citywide shooting detectives. The current liquor license on the premise still has Leonard J. Popper as the listed licensee. Mr. Summers was extremely cooperative with all police units on the scene. At that time, my investigation was complete, and the steps were left in control of Southern District Patrol units.
Great. You have any questions for Detective Greenhill? Questions? All right. Sir, your name, do you have anything to add?
I'm Officer West, Baltimore City Police. I was the primary officer investigating the shooting incident at the actual bar.
Okay. And you concur with Detective Greenhill's comments?
Yes.
Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Do you have any questions for
No, sir.
Officer West?
Although, can I make a?
One second. You have no further questions? Okay, great. What would you care to say?
We did supply the video to the police department, and the police department can see there was no illegal activity going in there. There was, I believe, 4 or 5 people having drink, watching television, when 3 men came in with masks, armed with pistols, and basically walked up to each person and said, "Go and get out of here." And then they just started shooting. I mean, at this point, what do you want us to do? You got 3 guys with guns. They were there for a mission, and they accomplished what they were out to do. There's nothing else that we weren't, there was nothing illegal going on in the place.
So, go ahead, Commissioner Higby.
Oh, go ahead.
So Detective Greenhill, I want to make sure I understand the facts here. Are they, as Mr. Scheer says, and as you, that these 3 individuals, to your understanding, came in unsolicited with handguns, and what, is that true? That's
That information I'm not privy to. The Southern District Patrol unit, he would actually be able to comment a little bit further. Like I said, I got there after the fact.
Yeah, they had masks, guns drawn inside, as they were coming in, the guns were out.
And did you mention you had a video of?
Yes, the police department has that, the
But
detectives.
it's not here.
No.
Shooting detectives would have that video.
They would have that video.
Yeah, I've supplied everything with them.
Okay, Commissioner Higby.
Were there any security guards?
No. That we've never had a shooting there. I mean, the neighborhood has had, I guess, its share of problems, but nothing like this.
Sergeant Greenhill, specifically, what did you base the charges on?
As far as our sole purpose in Vice is any acts of violence that happen in and around bars, we respond to it to make sure that the bar is not involved. Whether it be anything from drug activity to inside the bar or outside the bar within close proximity. Now I will say in my 16 years of working Vice and dealing with Sooners Tavern, that bar is in a high drug area. That has I've been told by several officers over the years that drug activity is at the bar. Some of which is inside, some of which is outside. Now, whether or not this occurred that particular night, couldn't say.
Agent Chris Amalis, have you been sworn in?
I have not, I apologize.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What do you care to add?
The only thing, back to the commissioner's question, the reason that we charge this case is, again, it's a very high, the officer it's in his district can testify to this. It's a very high crime area, extremely high drug activity corner. The fact that they did not have security is one of the reasons when they're in such a high crime area with customers in and out. A lot of the drug dealers going in and out, a lot of the crime around the area. We felt it was, then we expressed to the manager at that time that security is needed because of the multiple shootings on that corner alone.
I'm confused. Who was the manager, you said it was somebody else who said that they're the new owners of the
The
establishment. but-
bar now is in the middle of a management agreement and transfer. All the paperwork was submitted to the liquor board. Summerfield, I'll tell you, is,
I was talking to Detective
oh, okay,
Greenhill.
I'm sorry.
Basically, Mr. Dante Summers owned another bar in Baltimore. He recently, like I said, I'm not sure of their type of agreement that's going on. Like I said, Mr. Pope is still a listed licensee, but Dante Summers did say that he had met with Mr. Pope and arranged some type of agreement to take over the business.
Agent Chris Amalis, have you been to this establishment before and suggested security?
We've suggested security a couple different times. We've been there, I would say, with the social task force at least 3 times in the last 12 to 16 months. One of the VRI walks was actually based around that specific corner. At that time, we met with the manager who was supposedly buying the place. He actually agreed that he was going to put more cameras up and give the police access to those cameras and so forth, and he did talk about security at that time to us.
When was that?
That was during the VRI walk, and I believe it was after the first shooting.
How many shootings have there been here?
This was,
Inside the location, I think this was the first. Right outside, I couldn't give you a number, but I would say not the first.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, up and down the street, there's been, but we, under the new people that are in there, this gentleman's more welcome to come down. We've gotten rid of 90% of it on the corner. They don't come around. They've gone wherever they've gone. But we're doing the best we can. And it's like a head, a snake. You cut the head off, the tail's still wiggling. But if you want to go down there now, you're more than welcome. It's not what it was. They don't come around. But the shootings that have happened, there was another shooting 3 weeks ago on the corner down. It has nothing to do with us. This particular day, 3 men come in with guns. Even if I'm in there and we're armed, what are we going to do? Nothing. Nothing.
Commissioners, any other questions?
None.
Okay. On the basis of the testimony and the evidence before us, I would find a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, on January 24, 2019. I'd also find a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct, on January 24, 2019.
I concur based on the testimony of the officers and our agent. I, too, find a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, on January 24, 2019, and a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct, on January 24, 2019.
I also concur with the findings. The owner of the establishment is responsible for safety. You're responsible. You failed in this situation, so I concur with both charges.
So, Mr. Chair, at this phase of the proceeding,
I'm sorry, if I may, Stephen W. Fogelman, attorney for the applicants at 1600 Hazel Street, who have filed a transfer application for the license, came in after the January 24th event. Just like to say to the board that please consider not revoking the license due to the fact that there's new management and new ownership in place and on its way.
understood. Thank you, Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you.
So at this phase, we look at mitigation, and I think you've already discussed some of the facts here, that there's a management agreement in place, there's some changes that are undergoing. Obviously, your point is well taken with respect to 3 individuals, masked individuals coming into the establishment. What can you do? It's all noted. Is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of mitigation? Okay.
We just did the best we could with what we had.
Okay, so I note that the violation history, there's only been one previous violation for general welfare in April 2017. Based on that, I would, for violation of Rule 3.12, I would assess a $750 fine, and for violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, I would also assess a $750 fine.
I concur with the imposition of a fine and not imposing a suspension or a revocation at this time. This licensee has had this license since 1994, and as Commissioner Greenfield mentioned, the last violation was in 2017 for general welfare. So I concur with the $750 fine as to Rule 3.12 and $750 fine as to Rule 4.16.
I also agree with the findings for both charges.
So Mr. Chair, I understand there's management agreement, and I did take note of the fact, what can you do given the circumstances? But as Commissioner Jones said, Mr. Popa is responsible for the security within, and hopefully until there is a change in ownership that he'll take that seriously.
Okay. May I ask you one other question,
Yes,
sir? Will the board give me at least 30 days to get?
Yes, you'll have 30 days to pay, and there'll be a small administrative fee. Mr. Akris and Ms. Russell can fill you in on that,
Okay.
but you will have 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective L.C. Greenhill. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Officer West.
Calling the next case, Sherry Munyon Grimaldi and Sapna Sharma Pan Incorporated, trading as Kitty's Lounge, 3208 Greenmount Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare on April 30th, 2019, a violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct on April 30th, 2019.
Everyone who plans to testify in this case, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, thank you. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the licensee.
Good morning, Mr. Fogelman. Will this be an admission or a denial?
This would be a denial.
Okay. Sergeant Shiflett, what say you, sir?
Hey, sir, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Sergeant Shiflett, Baltimore Police Department, Northern District. I'm the midnight shift commander. On the date and time in question, April 30th at approximately 2 o'clock in the morning, I was en route to another call for service. As I was driving southbound on Greenmount Avenue, I observed a vehicle parked in front of Kitty's Lounge that had red and blue police lights in the vehicle flashing. I noted the tag number of the car, continued on to my call. As I'm on the way to the other call, I run the tag on the computer in my truck. It comes back listed to a lady in West Baltimore. Not the typical thing you'd see for a police vehicle listed to a private citizen. After I cleared the other call, I came back. There was a patron standing out front. I asked the patron, hey, does this car belong to you? He said it doesn't, belongs to the security guard at Kitty's. Walked over to the guard. He's wearing full-blown tactical gear. Black pants, black tactical pants, black tactical vest, police across the front of the vest, duty belt, what would look like a police radio, a handgun, extra magazines, the whole 9 yards that, you know, you'd see one of us wearing. I asked him if he was a police officer, and he said he was not. I asked him why he had police lights in his car. He said, I need them for my job. And I said, well, what do you do? He says, I guard Kitty's. And I asked him if he had a permit for the handgun on his hip, and he said he did not. And with that, I immediately reached over and grabbed the handgun, and I grabbed him, and I guided him to the ground, because now I've got an admitted, you know, person with a handgun that doesn't have a permit for the handgun. I called for additional units. The additional units showed up. I started asking the individual a couple questions, removed the handgun. Post-investigation, we learned that the individual was possessing a stolen handgun out of Pennsylvania. He's a felon, prohibited from carrying a handgun. He is impersonating a police officer, and according to the clerk that was working that night, he said that the individual was hired by the management of Kitty's.
Thank you.
That's it in a nutshell, sir.
Mr. Fogelman? any
Sure. Do
questions?
you have the name of the clerk who allegedly told you that the defendant was employed by Kitty's?
I do not.
You didn't follow up with that?
No, I was not the primary investigating officer. The officer that investigated that worked last night, and he's not here today.
Okay, but you're the
It's
one
a-
who wrote
he's-
the report. and
No, I
forwarded-
did not write the report, sir. I signed the report.
You signed it.
Right. Officer Figueroa is the officer that wrote the report. I'm the shift commander, and I typically won't do all the paperwork. Even if I run across something, I typically won't do the paperwork because I have a supervisory responsibility.
All right.
So on this day, everything is captured on body-worn camera, including the name of the clerk behind the glass, working behind the glass. And his name was documented. I just don't have that information with me right now.
Why weren't you able to produce that information? Don't you think that information would be helpful to the board?
Yeah, it would be.
Okay, and you understand there's really very limited discovery in liquor board cases, don't you?
Well, this is my first.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
In 25 years, I've been in this building once in 25 years, so.
Apologize.
No, that's a good thing, right? So, all right, I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Anything further? Please proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. Call as my first witness, Sapana Sharma. Ms. Sharma, you're a licensee at 3208 Greenmount, right?
Yes.
All right, and how long have you been licensee at 3208 Greenmount?
Yes, in like 2011.
Okay, and did you ever hire a Mr. Nathaniel Cotman to work at your store in any way?
I'm just the owner, my brother doing everything
Sure.
for me. So
All right.
he's here Monday.
But you're
Wednesday.
not aware, as the licensee, that anyone named Mr. Cotman was ever hired by the bar, isn't that right?
No.
Okay. And you're aware that the bar did hire a security company a couple of years ago, isn't that right? Mr. Myrie?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. And you know Mr. Myrie, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Myrie's been outside of your business on weekends for a
Yes.
while now, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Wait, okay, I have some questions. I think we all have. Commissioner Hayfie, please.
No, go ahead.
So, what's the name of the company that you've hired?
PAN Inc.
I can't hear that.
PAN Inc.
PAN Inc.? What's the name of, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm going to put the manager on in a minute because he's the one who did the hiring. But anyway.
Okay, all right, if any,
Actually, Officer Shiflett had another, or Sergeant, excuse me.
yes. Well, not, you
unprecedented.
can't, you can't, not right now.
Okay.
But thank you. All right, I think maybe then the other licensee might have more information in response to our questions?
Please, let
Okay.
me call the general manager, Preet Singh. Preet? Tell the board about the security situation at your wife's bar.
So we hired an independent company, independent guy, which is Mr. Neil Meyer.
When?
It's been almost, I guess, more than a year or so.
All right, and why did you do that?
I just trying to protect the place. So
And how were you referred to Mr. Myrie?
there's a friend of mine, he works in the Baltimore City Police, and I spoke to him over the phone that I'm looking for a security guard.
And who did he recommend?
He recommended Mr. Neil, who's been have a 20 years of security experience.
All right.
So we had a conversation. We showed the place and everything, and from like I think 1 or more than that, we never had no issues.
All right. And Mr. Myrie showed up at the place on what nights?
Probably 3 or 4 nights, sometime 5 also as we needed.
Over the period of a year?
Yes.
So he probably showed up 100 times or more?
Oh yes.
Okay. Did you ever meet a man named Mr. Cotman?
I never.
Okay.
I never seen.
Were
him.
you aware that a man named Mr. Cotman was claiming to work for Kitty's?
No idea.
Okay.
Yes.
After the incident, were you notified about what happened that night?
Actually, I was April 30th. I was out of country. When I came back, I got sick. The first thing I came to know from Detective Greenhill that if somebody hired this guy name, and I gave them information. The only person we hired, Mr. Neil, And we have all the information from since I've been out from March 23rd, and I came back on 7th of April, and then I was hospitalized. So I was out of work almost 4 or 5 weeks or more than that. So we never hired anybody.
And Neil was not an employee of yours, was he?
No, he's independent.
A contractor?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have nothing further of the manager. I'm going to put the security company on next.
All right, what is the name of the security company?
We just spoke, as I said, I spoke to my friend who works in the Baltimore Police. He does have a company, but his prices were really high, so he referred as an independent contractor. So I always took his name.
Let me ask this. Is Mr. Myrie here?
He is right here.
Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to answer some of these questions. Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Do you have any other questions?
I want to hear from
Last but
Mr.
not
Myrie.
least, Mr. Myrie, come on up. Your name, sir?
My name is Zanil Myrie.
All right, and you spell that N-E-I-L?
Yes.
Last name M-Y-I-R-E?
Yes, correct.
All right, and you have a business?
Yes.
And what's it called?
Myrie Security.
All right, how long have you been operating Myrie Security?
Well, six, 7 months.
6, 7 months?
Yeah.
All right, and what kind of experience do you have in the security industry?
Went to Potomac for security for decades.
What is that? What is Potomac Security?
It's a training facility. Go and train for security. It's a school.
And who have you worked for? What institutions?
I work for university. Work for
Of
Watkins.
Maryland?
Yes.
Hang on, you got to slow down. Okay.
Sorry.
Who else you work for?
I work for Watkins, Morgan State. It's another company went up business came with a flagship investigation. That's the other one.
Right.
Couple more, what was one more? They went up business. I came with a name for a couple years ago. But I've been doing this for 20 years.
Okay. And how long had you been working for Kitty's?
About a year. About a year.
All right. And
How long?
About a year.
A year.
All right, so you need to slow down. I heard that you said before that you've been doing this for 6 to 7 months. Where did that, I heard 6 to 7 months for what? You've been in business for 20 years, but 6 to 7 months for Kitty's?
As an independent, yes. So since I've been, as an independent security for Kitty's.
For Kitty's specifically? Okay.
So then what is the 1 year?
Wouldn't work for Kitty's for a year, but as far as independent, I've been doing it for 7 months.
Okay, so you were an employee of Kitty's until recently. Okay.
but in fact, you are not an employee.
Not
Isn't that right?
Just an independent for
But
Kitty's.
at some point, you
Yeah.
were an employee, right?
No, you were never an employee, were you?
Just like I said, Officer Pre, who know this gentleman here, who referred me to work for Kitty's Bar and Lounge, and he called me. So we don't have a signed contract to work for Kitty's, not an employee. So if you understand where I'm coming from.
Mr. Myrie, I think they just want to know, how long have you had anything to do with Kitty's?
A year.
Okay.
A year. And how many employees do you have?
Just me. It's just me. If I may elaborate on this, it's just me this man speak to. Mr. Cotman.
No, that's not my question. How many employees do you have? You have, it sounds to me like you do University of Maryland, Morgan State, Watkins. I'm not familiar if I heard you correctly.
That was my job that I work, but my main employee is University of Maryland. I work for,
Okay, so you do this on the side, the
Yes,
security on the side?
Yes, sir.
Other than you, do you have any employees?
Just me right now, just
you.
me, yes,
Are
sir.
you licensed security agency?
That's my tax ID and stuff like that.
No, but are you licensed in the state as a security?
I'm taking care of that now. I didn't have
But
the
you're
money
not.
to- Yeah, I didn't have money to do that.
Okay.
All right. If I may, further?
Please.
And Mr. Myrie, were you the one who hired Mr. Cotman?
Somebody referred me to him.
Okay. And you gave him a job?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you tell him to do?
I tell him to go in because I was not available to go in.
All right.
And I did not know his status of his background, and I said, okay, I was planning to check him out. So I happened to Sergeant Schaefer. Happened to that night. I didn't have get to finish what I have to do because I didn't have the ability to run the background of him.
So in some capacity, you engaged, whether you hired, in some capacity, whether as an employee or an independent, you engaged Mr. Cotman.
Yeah, somebody referred me to him.
That wasn't my question.
Yeah.
You hired Mr. Cotman in some capacity to work in this job and protect Kitty's.
Yeah, just I tell him to come in to fill in, but I didn't hire him as a fill-in, just to be there that night.
Understood.
Yeah.
He too was an independent contractor
Yes.
of yours.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yeah. But I did not know his background was like that, for him not to.
I understand, I understand. But did you notify Mr. Sharma or Mr. Singh that Mr. Cotman would be filling in for you?
Yeah.
Did you?
I told him that he was coming in.
Or
Yeah.
did you introduce them to him?
No, I did not, never,
All right.
never.
And at that point, you say his background check had not come in?
Never come in.
Okay.
I didn't have the resource to do all that.
All right, and you understand why the licensees are here today, right? Yes. All right. Do you take responsibility for this action?
On my part, I never intend for all this to happen to, Mr. Pre and his business. It's not, not something I'm there to do because over the year I've been there and I don't have no problem. The corner always cleared. I always make sure everything runs smoothly. I never intend for this to happen because I did not know the capacity of this gentleman. Until lately, I got a phone call from a sergeant who worked in the area and told me, I'm very well known in Baltimore City Police Department, and they called me and told me what.
Did you supply Mr. Cotman with any of the equipment?
No.
That was all his?
No, that was all
Okay.
his.
But you do understand you need to be licensed to
Yes,
provide
I'm taking
security
care of that
guard
now.
services?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
Anything?
I have a couple smaller stuff here. Sorry. Did you know, I'm gonna ask the question that was
Yes,
asked
sir.
before. Did you know Mr. Cotman had a weapon?
No, I never know he carried. No, sir, until the sergeant told me.
Did you have a conversation with him in reference to what was needed to do the job?
Just to be there because it's not says it's a problem store like that, like you're having, shooting and people running because as my experience, I know
Answer the question. Did you tell him what was needed?
just to be there, just to make sure nobody in the store, coming, just to out front, hanging out and stuff like that.
Are you licensed to carry a weapon?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm finished.
All right.
That's the end of my testimony here.
Officer Shiflett, Sergeant Shiflett, anything further from?
Yeah, just a little bit of additional information. In the Northern District, we've classified 10 businesses as the top problematic businesses as far as narcotics, violence, additional activity, and Miss Kitty's is one of the locations, as well as a place directly across the street at 3215. Now, this is my first interaction with the gentleman that was arrested, but after making this arrest, almost the entire shift came by, and that's 15 officers, came by Miss Kitty's to back me up. And every one of them said to me, I've been by here, I've seen this guy out front, I thought he was legit, I never thought that he was not legit. In speaking to the liquor board investigator, he told me a moment ago that he's had interactions.
Objection, he's here.
Sorry, he can testify to that.
Okay.
I do know, though, that this licensee has had the license for nearly 8 years and has only had one violation in the past. So I understand what you've seen, but from our records, it's only one documented violation. Please.
I'm going to make a motion at this time. The evidence is uncontroverted that the licensees hired an independent contractor to perform security services for them, knowing that contractor. They never knew anything about the independent contractor that their independent contractor had foisted upon them. There is no responsibility of the bar at this point. The liquor board tells people to go get security. They went and got security. They asked an officer for a referral. They got Mr. Myrie. They were happy with Mr. Myrie. Then this other guy shows up. There's no evidence in the file, in the police report, in the liquor board report that says that this defendant, Mr. Cotman, was ever even in the bar at any time during any of the incident. The incident occurred after 2 a.m. when the bar was closed. But most important, but those are ancillary arguments. We had a case at 1600 block of Thames Street. Horseshoe came in on. And the board voted in that case 2-1 to dismiss a charge based on the fact that the bouncer was a independent contractor of the business, not an employee. In this case, you have double in 2 levels, 2 layers removed from the bar having any responsibility or employment control thereover. I mean, I've not seen, quite frankly, a licensee more innocent of a charge in a long time. It is something that happened that was regrettable, that Mr. Myrie takes full responsibility for, putting these folks, his customers, in a precarious situation. But given the legality or the lack of a legal chain between Mr. Cotman and Ms. Sharma, we cannot find the bar guilty of these charges.
I'm going to dismiss your motion, or I'm not going to deny your motion, rather. I'm thinking of some other term.
Sure.
I'm going to deny your motion. I think that the licensee had a responsibility to vet this independent contractor, specifically Mr. Myrie, who I think has a whole set of issues he needs to address. So I'm going to deny your motion. Anything further?
You say something to me. Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What did I say? Once, please.
First of all, I went to Northern District 2-3 times to Mr. Cognetti to get the police help for the location, addressing that issue.
You can say that. Just This is Preet Singh, manager. Just wants to make a quick
Briefly,
statement.
yes.
Please.
Before we hiring Mr. Neil Meyer, I personally went to answering to the question to the commander. I went to the Northern District 3 times. I met Mr., if I'm not, maybe I'm pronouncing wrong name, I think Mr. Cognetti, I have the name. He's the senior officer over there. I went there 3 times, asked for that. We having some issues over there, outside that, and we want to get some logbook over there. This is what we do on our different location on South Baltimore at Washington Boulevard, where the police comes and they sign the logbook, they make sure everything is there. There are incidents when it happens, we call 911 right away, but police does not come for 40 minutes or 60 minutes, more than that. After 3 attempts, when my bartender were getting insecure, we had a meeting, and then we thought we're gonna hire a security officer for some days, at least to protect ourselves and the customers. But when we shop around with the gun, security prices us $40 an hour, and we are not that big of a business or corporate, so we hired without gun. And that is why we hired Mr. Neil Meyer, reference to the Baltimore City police officer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I may have be heard in closing.
Please.
Yes.
briefly.
Thank you very much.
No,
No, thank you. It's highly prejudicial for the Northern District to come in here and say, oh, they're one of our 10 hot spots. That's highly prejudicial to this board, and you need to remove that from your minds, because anybody can designate, oh, well, that's a trouble spot. And that instantly puts them closer to culpability in a reasonable person's mind. So I'd ask that you ignore that. And once again, I'd ask you to look at the lack of a chain of responsibility on the part of the licensee here. She hired this guy, and she hired him as an independent contractor. And that is very important here, because there's no employer-employee relationship. Mr. Myrie, then in a non-employer-employee relationship, independently contracts with a man who is loaded to the hilt, like a little arsenal, when these guys specifically hired an unarmed security guard as an independent contractor. The independent contractor hires a second independent contractor who he doesn't even know has guns on him. So again, it was a terrible thing that happened, and as far as we know, that man is in jail right now, and justice has been served, and no further justice need be served in this situation. So I thank you.
Thank you. Okay, based upon, no, you may not. We got to move this along.
I just wanted to give the name.
You can give him anything, but we're going to make our decision now, sir. Based upon the evidence before us, the testimony, I find a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, on April 30th, 2019. I also find a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, on April 30th, 2019. I think, Mr. Fogelman, based on the Kugel case, there's strict liability for any illegal conduct. I think, frankly, the licensees had a responsibility to vet Mr. Myrie, who in turn had a responsibility, significant responsibility, given the circumstances, to vet Mr. Cotman. So for Rule 3.12, I would assess a $1,000 fine. And for the violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, I'd also assess a $1,000 fine.
I too find based on the testimony here today and the evidence before us, I too find a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, on April 30, 2019. and a violation of Rule 4.16 legal conduct on April 30, 2019. I don't believe that a suspension and revocation are warranted at this time, so I concur with the assessment of a $1,000 fine as to the first violation and a $1,000 fine as to the second violation. 30 days to pay.
I concur. I can clearly see that full responsibility for the situation wasn't carried out. The owner had a clear responsibility. It's your business, you make money from it, it might be your livelihood. You gotta be more responsible. You don't let anybody come into your shop without knowing who they are. So I concur with the findings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Sergeant Shiflett. Board Exhibit 2, Statement of Probable Cause. Board Exhibit 3, Evidence Control Unit Property Sheet.
Call the next case, Erica Pear, 411 East LLC, trading as Red Room, 411 East Baltimore Street. There's a Class BD7 beer wine liquor license and adult entertainment license, a violation of Alcoholic Beverage Rule 3.08A, Sanitation and Safety, March 1st, 2019. Violation of Alcoholic Beverage Rule 3.12, General Welfare, March 1st, 2019. Violation of Alcoholic Beverage Rule 3.02, Cooperation, March 1st, 2019. A violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.10, Sanitation and Safety, March 1st, 2019. An violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 3.07, Cooperation, March 1st, 2019.
Good morning. If everyone here, please raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. Mr. Fogelman, will this be an admission or denial?
This is a denial. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Detective Greenhill, or whomever wishes to testify.
May I get right here, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, all my papers ready?
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Mr. Fogle.
Yes, sir.
Detective L.C. Greenhill, Vice Enforcement, Baltimore City Police. On March 1st of this year at 8:55 p.m., myself, along with members of the Social Club Task Force consisting of the Liquor Board, Baltimore Housing, Fire Department, conducted an inspection at 411 East Baltimore Street, identified as the Red Room. Erica Pear was present at the time of the inspection and in full operation control of the premises. While on the scene, members of the task force, namely Inspector Highline from the Fire Department, pointed out to your writer that was a used condom observed in the VIP area. I went over to the VIP area and clearly on the floor there was a used condom on the floor. Inspector Chris Malice was inspecting a rear storage room or stock room where he was walking and stepped on a used syringe. We continued with our inspections. Vice conducted an inspection of all the employee records with the dancers, found that to be up to date. Baltimore Housing found minor violations on their own. During the inspection, Erica Parr, who was a bit upset, inclined and said that she believed the condom might have been planted by one of the members of the Vice unit or the Social Club Task Force, basically indicating that this would put the club in violation. Well, sorry to say, I don't carry used condoms in my pocket. I'm sure none of the members of the Social Club Task Force carries used condoms. So, we finished our inspection. The club was left open, and that was pretty much it.
Great. Chief, Inspector, 1 second. You have any questions for Detective
Yeah, very briefly. So were you, look, I can't believe I went to law school for this, okay? Or any of us maybe in this room went to law school for this. But did you see the condom?
Yes.
Okay. Did you take any pictures of the condom?
No.
Okay. Was it out of its wrapper?
Yes.
Okay. You know what my next question should be, but I don't want to ask it.
Well, go right ahead.
I don't know how to ask it, to be honest with you. Was there anything else about the condom that would lead you to believe it was used?
Well, typically, most condoms, you take them out the wrapper, they're unrolled. But in this case, this condom, whatever the case may be, semen inside of it. But once you, typically with most condoms, once semen is inside, it's usually crumpled up, sticky. You know, the condom is really unusable at that point. But again, I have been working Vice. I do make prosecution arrests for the past 16 years, both street and on the block as well.
You know what a condom is. I'm not arguing with that. So, and speaking of Vice, you take pictures of the Bud Lights that Cadet Clado and the other cadets bring out of the store, right?
A liquor board takes pictures
of
the
all right.
alcohol.
Gotcha. And do you know if anybody took any pictures of the alleged used syringe?
That I would not know. Like I said, I was in another part of the club, and then once the other inspectors found it, they called me over. I observed it. That was the case.
And you said that Miss Pear was a bit upset.
Oh yeah, she was a bit upset.
It was pretty obvious that she was upset that these things had been found at the beginning.
Well, I think she was more upset over the fact that that day, I believe it was supposed to be other managers working that night, and they were nowhere to be found. So I think she was more upset that she was left in the control of having to deal with what's going on
on a Friday night.
On a Friday night, and she was the only one there.
And as the king of Vice, detective, or one of the kings of Vice of the BPD, you're familiar with the block, right?
Correct.
And you know that since 2011, the Needle Exchange Program has been giving out almost all you can carry condoms, syringes, at the block at Gay and Fayette. Isn't that right?
Right. That's throughout the city.
Okay, but you know that you do know that
the block.
You do know that they hit the block and they give out free condoms, they give out free syringes,
of course,
and that's part of Baltimore City Health Department, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then finally, were you privy to any? I mean, do you telling me you heard Ms. Pear try to imply that somebody had planted the condom?
I was standing right there in front of the office.
What'd she say?
Exactly. Not her exact word, but basically she said in the fact that I believe the condom was planted. She didn't say who planted it, but she said I believe the condom was planted.
But you can't remember the exact words?
No.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I wouldn't have put it in my report if I didn't hear it.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Elsie. Appreciate it.
Okay. Inspector Heinlein?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything else to add?
I do. I'm Inspector Heinlein, representing Baltimore City Fire Department. I'm a fire inspector for the Fire Prevention Bureau. I work closely with the Social Club Task Force. On this particular night, we went there. We were scheduled to go there through VRI. I would like to add that I am the annual inspector of the Red Room, and most of the time when I find life safety violations, they are abated. On this particular night, and I will get to the condom momentarily, on this particular night, my function is to look for life safety issues, fire hazards, and also to educate on fire prevention. So this particular night in the back room, we found tiles that were missing.
Tiles?
Tiles, ceiling tiles.
Okay.
Ceilings have to be completely covered so that fire doesn't spread to the floors above. So they were written up for the ceiling tiles. They also had space heaters that was throughout the building. They were written up and told to remove. That was abated immediately by the gentleman to my far right. So that issue was automatically abated. In the past, they have always been compliant with my concerns and my directions to do small projects that needed to be done for life safety issues. With regards to the condom, I was the one who actually found the condom. I was doing my search around looking for electric cords or whatever, and in what was described and stated as the VIP room, I noticed a condom on the floor. That don't have nothing to do with life safety with me, but I brought it to Agent Chris Malice's attention that there was a condom here. The condom was without a wrapper. The condom was, how can I describe it? I'm not going to say used, because I'm going to be asked questions that I don't want to answer. But the condom looked as if it was used. It was out of the wrapper, and as you know, a condom, when it comes in the wrapper, it's condensed. And this condom was open. So that's all I know about the condom, but I'm the one who saw the condom. I went back after I wrote the spot notices to the business, and all of our issues were abated. And with regards to the heaters, they were removed that night immediately.
Inspector, did the fire department assess this licensee any fines, anything?
That particular night, as you know, our city systems are down. They were given spot notices. I don't think I wrote citations.
Okay.
I don't think I wrote citations. The issues that were noted were life safety issues, but not in any imminent danger of.
Thank you.
Very briefly, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Hall of the establishment, she assisted you or helped you make a walkthrough? Is
Yes,
that right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
They were very cooperative, except for the lady who said that she was the manager or owner, and that's the lady to your right.
All right, and what interaction did you have with her?
She was just very disturbed, upset, and she did not state. I was with Officer Greenwood. She did not state that it was planned. She said somebody put it there.
You heard her say something to that effect?
I did.
Do you remember the exact words?
Somebody planted it there. No, somebody placed it there. And I had asked her what time they opened up, and she said around noon. And then I asked her, when do they do cleaning? And she said they do cleaning the night before and in the morning. So we were there at somewhere around, around 21, yeah.
All right, and you, it might have been a little after 8, right? Like maybe 8:20?
Yeah, I can't be sure. I don't know what time it was.
Yeah.
It was in the evening, though. It was one of our first stops, if you will.
All right. And finally, let's see if there's anything else. No, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, sir.
Good to see you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Inspector. Agent Chrisomolos, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going to move to dismiss the charges at this time, specifically the non-cooperation charge. Historically with this board, non-cooperation means more than being a bit upset, means more than saying somebody placed it there. It doesn't mean you have to have a smile on your face. It doesn't mean you say yes, sir, and no, sir. Historically, non-cooperation charges on this board have gone way beyond that, such as the case at Maxie's on York Road, where an employee told underage drinkers to hide in the bathroom, or Banditos, where they mopped up a crime scene before the police got there, or incidences where people refused to provide names and IDs of employees and tried to actively thwart an investigation. None of those things happened here. What you have is a licensee who was not thrilled about and just as shocked and surprised as the regulators with what she was being presented with. Cooperation, Merriam-Webster, let me see if I printed it out. Merriam-Webster dictionary says cooperation is to work with. And though we haven't had a lot of specific testimony about it, there's no testimony and no charging that there was no failure to turn over employee records or anything like that. So nothing that's been testified to here. It sounds like she borderline had a bad attitude, but nothing to suggest a thwarting, putting up a wall and not cooperating. Not being happy and not cooperating are two very different things. Thank you on that one.
I'm going to hold on your motion for now. I want to hear from Ms. Pear.
Sure. Thank you.
And I'm not necessarily, yeah. So
And then let me, while I'm,
The other charges.
on both, your motion, if I heard you correctly, was just on the cooperation for the alcoholic.
no, I wanted to also move for the dismissal of the other two charges.
I'm going to deny that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry.
But you're still going to hold on the
I'm going to hold on the
Sure.
cooperation. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right,
Hayfield.
thank you. Ms. Pear will be my first witness. Ms. Pear, you've been sworn, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Pear, you're the licensee at 411 East Baltimore Street, right?
Yes.
All right. What happened around 8:20, 8:30 that night?
Around 8:20, I was actually behind the bar washing dishes when they came in the bar. When they came in the bar, they asked who was the licensee and who was responsible for the bar, and I immediately told them I was. They asked me for my ID, and I gave them the ID. So I came from behind the bar and went immediately in the office to get out the IDs on my employees, and the girls that we actually had there at the time had their IDs on them as well. No one has actually started working that night. We was just in the process of opening for night shift.
Okay, thank you. And you directed Ms. Sheila Hall, the bartender at the time, to go over the employee records with either Elsie, with Detective Greenhill, or with Agent Chris Amalis from the liquor board?
Yes, I instructed her to help them with in anything that they needed, or asked for.
And who did she assist?
She was actually in communication with the, excuse me, what's his name again? The fire inspector and Chief Hyman. And at some point, she was talking to actually all of them that was in there, to be honest with you.
Okay. And at some point, did the regulators, did the city employees tell you that there was a condom that they had found?
After everyone was found and given them their IDs, they took a walk in throughout the building, went towards the ice room, which they then came out. They called me out of the office. Okay, they were already out there speaking with the girls and with the two employees right here. They called me out of the office, and one of them complained about stepping on a syringe or needle, which was never shown to us at all.
Did you ever see a condom?
They walked us into the VIP area, and then they showed us an open condom laying in broad sight in the middle of the floor. And they did show us an open condom, and it was laying right in broad light in the middle of the floor.
All right, and Ms. Pear, since these items were found, I mean, let me back up. How did you feel when you were presented with these items?
It was a flashlight shone on the condom, and it was like, wow. They made a remark about balloons or something, and then said, "I wonder how this got here." And my response was, "That's exactly what I would like to know, how that got there."
Did you say anything to the effect of anybody could have put that here?
If I said anything, not at that particular moment when I was in the office on the phone trying to get in contact with people, I was talking to my employees, and that's exactly at that point, like, if they said it planted it there, that's not true. Or I said that it was planted there, that's absolutely not true.
But you said you want to know who put that
I want to know how it got there.
How it got there, okay. Since this, sure. And at that point, were you presented with the needle?
We never saw a syringe or a needle at all. Through the whole incident, we never saw a needle at all.
And who was the officer or person who had a needle, claim they almost sat on a needle or stepped on a needle?
The officer right here came out of the ice room literally hopping and screaming at the whole entire bar, saying that a needle stuck through through his boot or through his shoe. It was no needle. They didn't even show us the needle. They showed us the only thing they showed us was an open condom.
Okay. All right, at that time, did you have any interaction with the agent who?
I didn't say anything concerning the needle.
All right, did he say anything about the needle?
Yeah, he basically said a threatening mark about stabbing us actually with the needle at some point.
What exactly was said?
If I get something, or I don't know his exact words, if I get something, I should take this needle out and stab you in the eyes. That's exactly what he said to us.
All right, you didn't take that seriously, did you?
I didn't take it seriously, maybe because I wasn't scared. They took that as not cooperation, because I also want to state to the fact that I was shocked the condom was there, because the clubs don't just get clean. They get clean in between shifts, because night shift, we empty the trash, and this is a cleaning guy right here, and I'm mandatory on that. That's mandatory to clean the clubs. That's why I was shocked. I said, that's what I would like to know, why the condom's there.
And since you've been a licensee on the block, are you aware that the health department passes out condoms and syringes on Thursday nights in bulk?
Yes, I am.
From 8 to 10 p.m.?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Since this incident, have you met with your employees or done anything differently?
The same thing, it is always in routine. The same rules are still in effect. I'm the one that, believe me, they run from. I'm the one that wants the rules to be kept. Believe that. I have a location. I make sure everybody is doing what they're supposed to do, and it is a zero tolerance. If I find anything on that effect, or somebody located to it, they will be, fired from the premises. I also recently took a Narcan class that was given to us at the liquor board.
And thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
So are you suggesting, I just want to make sure I'm clear. What you're saying is that based on your knowledge, there was no syringe or no condom?
It was absolutely, no. They showed us a condom. That's why my reaction was when it's like, what is this, balloons, or what is this doing here? My reaction, that's what I would like to know, because literally, the shift, we didn't even start the shift, and the club was clean. And there was no needle ever. We never even was shown a needle.
Right, and Ms. Pear, finally, I'm going to show the board, are these inspection reports that you have received since the violation?
Yes.
Okay, and are these rules and regulations of
Yes.
the club? And
Yes.
is there the Red Room drug policy page on the back? Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce these.
It will be accepted.
Thank you.
And like I said, you're aware that the Needle Exchange Program hands out needles at Baltimore and Gay, the block, on Thursday until midnight.
Yes.
I'd like to move for the admission of Needle Exchange Program website info.
Okay, can be accepted.
Thank you.
All right, thank you and look, last question. You don't have any problem with these inspectors, do you?
Not at all. No.
All right,
I have no reason.
all right. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Pear?
No.
Thank you. Very briefly, Sheila Hall. Thank you, Ms. Hall. Your name is Sheila Hall?
Sheila Hall.
Just like it sounds?
Yes.
Okay. And you've worked at the club for how long on and off?
I've been there regularly for the last 2 years.
All right, and before that, for years, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
for some time.
All right, and you're also aware that the health department passes out condoms?
Yes.
All right, and have you seen condoms come into the bar?
The girls, all of them, they get a bag. Every one of the girls get a bag, and they put them in their bags. That's what they do.
Yeah. All right, and did you have a chance to work with any of the regulators here or the officers during this incident?
Yes, all of them.
Who did you, okay, what did you do specifically?
Got the IDs. Ms. Pear handed me the book of IDs, and I got the IDs of the girls that were working that night out for them. Then when we had the violations, or not the violations, but the little things from the fire marshal, Jay and I walked around with him, took notes so that we could make sure that the cleanup guy got everything, the maintenance man got everything.
And the fire inspection, you testified already? Yeah.
That was the one.
Okay. Yeah, and let's see, you have an interesting situation because you work there and you've been strong clean for 11 years 11. Now from addictive substances,
Yep.
Isn't that right? And you are Narcan certified as well.
Yes.
All right. Were you upset, like the licensee that night, when you heard that these things were on your floor?
Of course.
Why?
Well, because we have a zero tolerance for drugs in there. If any of the girls had a syringe on them or in the premises, they would get fired.
Right, and did you ever see the condom?
I didn't. I heard the remark about, are we blowing up balloons? But I didn't see it. Jay did.
Did you hear Ms. Pear tell the inspectors at any time that she thought that they had planted evidence at the bar?
No.
Do you remember the substance of any of her sayings? At
Yes.
that time? What were they?
The only thing that she said was when they asked how it got there, she said, that's what I would like to know. That's it.
Was she not happy about the discovery of these items on a Friday night in her bar?
Of course.
All right. And was it fair to say that she was wondering who she should fire or who's responsible for this?
Exactly.
Right, okay. And then finally, did you see the syringe?
No, and we've been talking about that ever since the incident, because is it still there? Are we going to get another violation? Are they going to come back? And we don't know. No one's ever seen this.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I didn't like being threatened to be stabbed with a syringe. That wasn't very nice.
What was that?
When the officer said that he stepped on it, he said if it would have punctured him, he would have stabbed every one of us that work there. But he didn't say it in such nice words.
All right. I have nothing further.
I have a question for her. We can ask questions, correct? The board can ask questions.
The board can ask questions.
So previously, your client stated.
State your name, please.
Agent Chris Amalis, that I came out hopping because I had been stuck by the needle. This witness of yours said, I told her if I got stuck by the needle, I was gonna stab her in the eye.
You said if it punctured you.
But your boss said that I came out limping, that I had been stuck by a needle.
Well,
Wasn't that the
sounds more like
testimony
an
I heard?
argument than a...
No, it's not an argument, it's what she testified to.
Agent, what's your question?
I don't know which one, did I get stuck with a needle, or did I threaten to stab him in the eye?
You did threaten to stab us all in the eye. You
And
did.
you don't recall telling this gentleman to go clean up the needle immediately after I showed you the picture that I'm about to show you again? Of the needle?
No.
Right there?
No.
You never saw this needle?
No.
No one ever
No.
cleaned up this needle?
No.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right.
What,
No, not at all.
And Agent Chris Amalis, was a picture of that syringe in the packet for the evidence for this hearing?
No, it wasn't, because we can't print out any of our pictures or our reports.
All right.
All right, let's move this along.
Yeah, I don't want to make more of this than it is, but I do want to call Jay.
Please just testify to things that have not been testified to
You got
already,
it.
please.
This is unique, one and only. Jay, what's your last name?
Hill.
Hill? You were the doorman that night?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you see the condom?
Yes.
What state was it in? Be specific.
Look, this just been pulled out the wrapper, and I'm actually the guy who picked it up.
Was it used or not used?
Not used.
It was not used.
It was not used.
So the officers are saying that it was used, and so there's a.
I mean, we can all look at something and say it was used, but I'm actually the guy who actually had to pick up a condom.
All right, fair enough. I'm not going to
All
debate.
right, did you overhear any of the conversation between the licensee and the officers and members from the city government?
That was, yes.
All right, what did you hear?
I mean, we weren't happy. I mean, there was no, like,
All right.
erratic.
You're aware that the health department distributes condoms and syringes to the bar?
Yes.
All right, and thank you. Nothing further.
Okay. All right. Anything further in closing?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. We still have remaining docket and an
understand.
afternoon docket, so we're trying to get through these. Okay.
I'll be brief.
Okay. You closing?
Yeah.
Please.
Thanks.
briefly.
Like I said before, and I won't say it again, this is not a non-cooperation case. It's a bizarre case. Maybe there was a little bit of drama on both sides here. I'm not sure what happened when it comes to cooperation. I don't think that there's been any preponderance of the evidence to prove that there was non-cooperation. On this date, Ms. Pear was as shocked and horrified at the allegations presented to her as anyone in the room. None of the dancers had performed yet that evening. She'd only served a few drinks. She was incredulous that these things might be on the floor of her club, and that's because Miss Stephanie Hall, the bartender, who is a 10-year strong, recovered addict, doesn't put up with any monkey business at the bar. It was a moment of who, what, why, and shock, and Ms. Pear's mood wasn't about the inspector's presence there, but by the fact that when the social task force comes in, they come in 5 and 6 deep. It is certainly disruptive to a bar on a Friday night. So there's only 2 customers in there. They came in, they did their work. They asked for the licensee. The licensee presented up. She came out. They asked for the IDs of all employees. Ms. Hall and Ms. Pear took care of that. The fire inspector was allowed unimpeded to note any fire issues which required corrections. Nobody from the bar remembers anything about the licensee implying that something was planted, but they remember, how did that get here? That's what I'd like to know. The response to the question, well, what do you think, why do you think this is here? So when a contractor or the BC HD itself passes out all-you-can-carry condoms and syringes every week on the block for over 8 years, there's no way that those items should be considered evidence of law-breaking by themselves. They signify nothing. From this case, I've even learned that the manager of the bar had to come to the liquor board offices for Narcan training, which is unprecedented in this agency's 80 years.
Let me correct you on that, because that's an initiative by Liquor Board, not unprecedented. We've been working on that with the health department.
No, it's wonderful. I mean, I think it's great. And you got Narcan training. And so, I didn't realize that the Liquor Board was involved with substance abuse addiction of any substances other than liquor. So that was new to me. But I guess when I hear this and then I see this case, I think, well, would the liquor board have charged the licensee if there had been a Narcan container found in a bar? I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that if we're for harm reduction, then charging a licensee with simple possession of these items as criminal criminal evidence just for being on the floor of their establishment. Could have dropped by a random customer, could have been a diabetic. If you go to casinos, you see these needle drop boxes in the bathrooms. So if we're for public health, we need to destigmatize these items, for one thing, because we're giving them out for free. So we can't use that against a bar. Now look, the licensee, well, I'll wait till we get to the disposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I find a violation of alcoholic beverage 3.08A, sanitation and safety on March 1st, 2019. I do believe there's a condom and I do believe there's a syringe there. And I take your argument, Mr. Fogelman, that it's being dispersed by the city. I still don't think that's acceptable to have that in an establishment, and I don't believe it was planted. So I find a violation and I would assess a $750. Oh, I gotta wait mitigation.
Sure.
My mistake.
Sorry.
I find a violation of alcoholic beverage rule 3.12. On the violation of the alcoholic beverage 3.02 cooperation, I would dismiss that charge. I think that there were heated incidents on both sides. I don't think it was handled well, but I take your point. And with respect to the violation of, I find a violation of adult entertainment rule 3.10 on March 1st, and I too would vote to dismiss the violation of adult entertainment rule 3.07 cooperation.
I too find a violation of Rule 3.08A, sanitation and safety on March 1st, 2019, a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on March 1st, 2019. I agree to dismiss a violation of Rule .302, cooperation. While I don't appreciate the attitude that the owner had towards our inspectors and the agents, other agents that were there, I do believe the establishment was cooperating in terms of investigating the concerns that they raised to them. I find a violation of Rule 3.10 sanitation safety, adult entertainment rule 3.10 sanitation safety in March 1st, 2019. And I again agree to dismiss a violation of adult entertainment rule 3.07 cooperation based on the same reasons as I stated above.
I could repeat everything, but I concur with that.
Thank you for your brevity, Commissioner Jones. Mr. Fogelman,
Very
briefly on...
one paragraph. Yes, sir. This licensee had some issues during Commissioner Jones' first service on the liquor board from 9 to 11. After that time, they got their act together for the most part. They were last here in 2016 and never again until today. So I would ask that, I would certainly state this is not a suspendable or revocable situation. Thank you very much.
So the licensee does have a history of violations. I would find, as to alcoholic beverage rule 3.08A, I'd find a $750 fine. As to alcoholic beverage rule 3.12, I would assess a $750 fine. And as to adult entertainment rule 3.10, I would assess a $750 fine. 30 days to pay.
I concur with the assessment of $750 fine as to the first violation. I also concur with the assessment of a $750 fine as to the second violation and $750 fine as to the third violation with 30 days to pay.
I concur with finding of Rule 3.08, also Rule 3.12, and Rule 3.10, fines of $750 for those three.
Thank you for your, I'm sorry.
I wasn't finished. I knew y'all was going to rush me. But can I finish?
Please, you're the shortest one here, so please. Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience. Appreciate it.
Yeah, aren't you?
It's already 12. And we have the second docket in a half.
Mr. Fogelman.
Yes, we saw. That's what I'm saying.
I'd call exhibits for the record.
You should never talk that long.
Board Exhibit 1, inspection report, bar rules and drug policy. Board Exhibit 2, needle exchange program printout.
Thank you.
Please quickly clear the room.
Mr. Court Reporter, are we ready? Calling the next case, Jojinder Samra and Jojinder Singh, 2300 West Baltimore Street, LLC, trading as Club 2300, 2300 West Baltimore Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, representing the licensee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kadensky. Everyone who plans to testify, please raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Tell me something good, Mr. Kadensky. Is this an admission or denial?
The only thing good was, look, I knew this was going to happen, so I had Mrs. Kadensky pack my lunch for me.
That's very kind of her.
I think so, too. What a wonderful person she is, and I'll make it an admission.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
How many sandwiches did she send?
How many what?
Sandwiches.
Yeah. If you
I can
have
cut
one,
it
you have
up.
to have some for everybody. Okay, so we find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, or I'm sorry, do I need to hear from Detective Greenhill? I don't believe so.
If there's an admission.
No, we don't. All right, so I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on March 19th, 2019.
And let me just,
Well, let's.
oh, I'm sorry.
I too find a violation. Let me keep-
I concur.
All right,
Is that-
I don't want
Any-
to say nothing. I'm
all right,
scared.
good.
Any
Please.
It just came up during the protest of renewal, if you remember. This gentleman was buying the place, this gentleman was selling the place. There was a problem where the transfer elapsed because of the time Mr. Kumar went to India and so forth. And it was alluded to, although it was not right for the board to review it at the time. The board then renewed the license, and he made assertions that, you know, when the case came up, they would not be contested. And he's now trying to put the application back in and trigger. He's had prior, so I'm not trying to make it more than it really is. I'm trying to
Right.
take the path of least resistance here.
And he's had a 3-day suspension, not just on a sale to minors recently, but on a couple others.
On the bar issue, yeah, right.
Okay. All right, any commissioners, any question?
No.
None.
If I may
well,
just add, just one quick thing.
Please.
Yes.
Just, if you can, just try to work with the bar or as far as the sales to minor, because it's 2,300 is getting out of hand as far as alcohol being sold. As you can see in your record, it's not just once or twice, so
It's a problem.
Were they cooperative?
always cooperative.
And we're trying to do the change in ownership now, and hopefully that won't happen again.
So what have they done differently?
Well,
How will
there's,
they
we
prevent
put an
it?
application in to take it out of this gentleman's name, and he's in there trying to clean the place up and make it better, put more signs up and so forth. So hopefully with a change in the ownership, that won't be, you know, he's here, he hears what's going on, so I mean, he can't say he didn't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I do recall that the new owner has, if I recall correctly, is putting in a number of things in place, including a
Right.
scanner and others to prevent this from happening. Okay. All right, any other questions?
Other questions?
For the violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, I would assess a $1,500 fine given the history. You've been suspended before. I do not vote to suspend this time, and hope that this change of ownership has an actual impact, because this is not a good license, good history.
$1,000 fine.
$1,500.
Oh, excuse me, $1,500 fine. $1,500 fine. I was a little different. I would have voted to suspend this license for 4 days because of the history of sales to minors and Detective Greenhill's testimony today.
You can. Okay, all right, so then it would be a $1,500 fine, and I encourage existing and new licensee, assuming we grant the transfer, that you recognize that this is a huge issue, and I would encourage you to continue to work with Liquor Board staff and Detective Greenhill and others in the Vice Unit, because I don't know that you're going to get many second chances here.
Will do.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill.
Okay. Take 2 minutes. 2-minute break, please.
Board is in recess for 2 minutes.
You're off the record, come off the record.
We got to pause for the cause.
Recalling the matter. Rupak Karki and Robert Tompori, Eva Group LLC, trading as Pratt Liquors and Bar, 1812 West Pratt Street. There's a Class BD7 Beer, Wine, and Liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudensky.
Everyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mr. Kudensky?
I'll move on. I'll be making an admission here.
Great, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Based upon the admission, I would find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on March 19, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, March 19, 2019.
Concur.
The licensee has been here before on it, but in the meantime, it's like one on, one in, one out. He has a letter here, one of the Good Boy letters, where they came in December, elapsed. He has then since instructed all his employees regarding, alcohol awareness and to check everybody. It seems like it's such a simple matter. For some reason, nobody checks and they don't want to go ahead and do it. And but I think that at this point here, since he's advised of the situation, and I think he should be getting some consideration of the fact that he got a Good Boy letter there.
Was he cooperative?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, other than checking licenses, which he should have been doing already, what things will he implement?
They're putting some signs up. A lot of people are putting signs up on there, and I try to get them, because it's my understanding now, is that if they ask, the people who are there will not lie and say they're 21. They would, because that would be volatile. But they're trying to be more attentive to what's going on in the area.
All right. Anything further?
Nothing.
Okay. So this is this license was transferred in, if our records are accurate, September of 2018. He had a violation in November of 18, and then another one in March of 19. I do take the fact that he got the Good Boy letter into account. I would, for the violation of the Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, given it's the second offense in 6 months, 7 months, I would assess a fine of $750.
I concur with the assessment of a $750 fine because this is the second sales to minors within 6 months.
So do I.
Thank you. Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill.
Calling the next case, Sarbjit Singh and Sonia Walker, Bodwall LLC, trading as Lombard Liquor and Bar, 1000 West Lombard Street. This is a Class BD7 Beer, Wine, and Liquor license, violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
For the record, Melvin J. Kudensky representing the licensee.
Great. Everyone who plans to testify, please raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Kudensky?
This will be an admission also, and I'll make an admission and I'll have way of mitigation.
Okay. Find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on March 19, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, March 19, 2019.
I concur with the findings stated.
As you remember, this was rather contentious protest and renewal. At that point, the police officers that were here, and then they have a logbook and so forth. And the admonition was to try to get more involved with the community, which the licensee has done. They're trying to set up some meetings. In the meantime, unfortunately, that was pending when we had the protest and rule was alluded to. Since that time, the licensee has dealt with the employee and with the suspension. They now have signs, as indicated by the commissioner, no ID, no service all over the place. Check ID, anyone who looks under 40, to check them with all their employees. They're really cognizant of the fact that, although they can be as vigilant as they want, if their employees don't do it, then they get stuck, but they're responsible, more than anybody else, because they're the licensees and they have the investment in the case. So I think, the licensee now, through her and her husband's here and so forth, have really made a really concerted effort on this.
It sounds like they made a concerted effort on working with the community. It doesn't sound like I'm hearing anything with respect to addressing the sale to minor. What are they doing with respect to preventing that?
So, good morning, Commissioners. I actually, when that incident happened, I suspended my employee for a whole week without pay because I want them to know how serious this matter is. In that conjunction, in that period, he has gotten an alcohol awareness class already. I asked him, I want him to go and attend it again. He's actually here today as well to present that. He did, he went and he attended again. And I think they also understand the fact that I am serious about this, that, even though I'm putting the signs up and I ingrain it in their head over and over again to always check ID. Anybody who looks under 40, make sure you check that ID. And, he, since after having that suspension, realizes that, she is very serious and that I need to get more serious about this.
Okay. All right, anything further?
Nothing further.
Well,
Were they cooperative?
okay. So, Ms. Singh, I don't know whether to impose the same sentence I imposed your employee. I mean, honestly, when can we make sure that the message is sent to you that this is serious? And this is your third sales to minors in not quite 3 years. I am going to assess on the violation of sales to minor a $3,000 fine and a 3-day suspension.
I remember this case at the protest of renewal, and I believe we indicated at that time that we would be a little bit harsher next time you appeared before us. I don't believe that a revocation of license is warranted at that time. However, I do believe last time we noted we did not give you suspension, so I do believe that a suspension is warranted at that time, and I concur with a 1-week suspension and a $3,000 fine.
Commissioner Havey, I imposed a 3-day suspension. Are you suggesting a 1 week?
Yes.
Okay.
I concur with the 1-week suspension and $3,000 fine.
All right, thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, 115?
I apologize. When does the suspension start? Immediately?
Immediately.
Okay. And that concludes the morning docket. The board will be in recess until 1:15. Yes, Korean. Spanish. Two Louis.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Korean. The only person I need you to be here for is two Louis. Two Louis? What about it? You're gonna. Was this yours? No. Flores? I'm not. Louis, you were with me.
Starting.
You sure? Did you read the report? Okay.
Got Terry on that.
Huh?
I'm here for my cousin's place and
Good afternoon. Please quiet in the gallery. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's afternoon violation docket. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, 2019. When your case is called, please step forward to the microphone and state your name clearly into the microphone. If you are going to be giving testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in by the court reporter. If anyone has a cellular phone or other electronic device, I would ask that you put it on silence now or on vibrate. Starting with the first matter, Gurpreet Kaur, sole proprietorship, trading as Tavern Bar, 2148 Wilkins Avenue. This is a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors. I would ask that all individuals who are going to be giving testimony in this case, please come forward to prepare to be sworn in.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kudensky. All those who plan on testifying, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This, for the record, Melvin J. Kudensky, this is the admission Miss Kaur had to go, didn't have to. She was called to go to India because of a family sickness or death. She had sent me the plane tickets. I could bring them if you want to see them, but she said she authorized me to make an admission, and then I'll say what she...
Great. Based upon your admission, I'd find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, on January 31st, 2019.
And if you look,
One second.
I'm sorry.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on January 31st, 2019.
I concur with that finding.
It's a D license. She's been there basically 2 years, hasn't had any violations. She's instructed her people to make sure they check everybody. She was a little bit preoccupied because of the thing that was going on with her family in India, but I told her that's really no excuse. You know, it's more a way of mitigation. And I told her that I would explain that to the board, and she expects to be back very shortly, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Were Agent Chris Mollis, were they up? Oh, you have to, okay, sworn in?
Yes, yes, okay. Thank you. So they were very cooperative. Okay. Based upon the evidence, based upon your proffer, I would find a violation, as I did, on Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, and would assess a fine of $350.
I concur and I concur with the imposition of a $350 fine with 30 days to pay.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Calling the next case, Ashley Kim and Keyoung Lee, Arik Incorporated, trading as Whispers, 1807 through 11 Baker Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
All those who intend to testify, please come up and raise your right hands.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Previs?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Previs on behalf of the licensee. This is Mr. Taek Kim, T-A-E-K, the husband of Ashley Kim. I'd previously requested a postponement of the matter because they were out of town taking care of a sick relative, and that relative passed away this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Ms. Kim is not here, but as a result of that, but Mr. Kim has full authority to act on behalf of the
Okay.
corporation.
Great. Will this be an admission or denial?
It will be an admission.
Great. Based upon the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, on February 20th, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 20th, 2019.
I concur.
Litigation?
Thank you. The person who was working that evening is Mr. Young Kim, that furnished the peach, whatever it was. What was this one?
Peach vodka.
Peach vodka to Cadet Dickerson. There was a prior violation for sale to a minor at this establishment that the hearing was on March 1 of 18, and that was also Mr. Kim. And this Mr. Kim had let him go for not being as diligent as he should have, and he came back and begged him, saying he didn't have a job and he has 3 kids to support. So Mr. Kim let him back in, and very shortly thereafter, this happened again. And he just had to let him go again. He feels bad for the gentleman, but he's also feeling bad for his wife. He has provided me with alcohol awareness certificates for himself and his current employee, Myung Lee, and he's brought copies of those. I would also note that in the record, and he has a copy of the letter, December 14th, 18, there was an underage drinking task force that was conducted as to this place, and they did card the cadet at that point. And those are copies of those.
Be received. Thank you.
With regard to the priors of the establishment, there were, in 17 and 18, there were 2 violations for not having the tavern open, and then it seems like they've fully corrected that matter, because there was, back in November, a violation for pouring 1 bottle of liquor into another bottle of liquor that the comptrollers appear to get very upset about, and there was a violation for that. So there is 1 prior violation for sales to a minor. It was the same gentleman. We've taken care of that problem. The other violations have all been rectified and will not occur again. So on behalf of Mr. Kim or Ms. Kim, respectfully request that the board consider a fine, I guess in the amount of what it has been of $1,125 with the administrative fee.
Thank you.
They were cooperative, Mr. Chrysomalis?
They're cooperative. Okay, great. All right, based upon the evidence, the testimony before us, I would assess a $1,500 fine, given the history of this licensee, recognizing that the licensee is trying to make some efforts to address some of these issues.
I agree with the assessment of a $1,500 fine as well.
I concur.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, members of the board.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Protective LeBron. Licensee Exhibit 1, 2 in total alcohol burner certifications, and Licensee Exhibit 2, letter of compliance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I should have said this at the outset, but Jonas Nagash Incorporated, trading as Bayview Liquors, an upper-level lounge, 3408 Eastern Avenue. This matter was postponed and will be scheduled for a future date.
Great, thank you.
Calling the next case, Luis F. George, 2 Louis Cantina LLC, trading as 2 Louis Cantina Bar and Grill, 200 South Haven Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kapinski. All those who plan on testifying, please come forward and raise your right hands.
Where's your witnesses?
Please, if you're coming to testify, please come up. Please raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Great.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, this is being an admission.
Based upon the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on April 10th, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on April 10, 2019.
I concur.
Well, there have been prior occasions. In this case, this was a little different than prior to that. Normally, the person who would being served would have been somebody who worked behind the bar. However, where's this culprit? Come on up here. This young lady, they called her out of the kitchen. She was working in the kitchen, usually a kitchen person, and she wasn't familiar with, how you should check anybody and so forth. And this gentleman here is the manager and does the security there. So it was one of those wrong place, wrong time happened. And since then, they posted signs up, nobody, no ID, no service, nobody under the age of 40, has to be carded. They're all taking alcohol awareness, and this young lady's been banished to the kitchen for life.
What was the reason that she had to serve?
Well, there was somebody that was not there, and then they called out to just try to serve, and she was the only person there to come out. She doesn't do that and will not do it anymore.
Were they cooperative? Cooperative? Yes, cooperative? Okay. Great. Okay. So, Mr. Kudinski, there is a history here of at least one sale to minor. One was dismissed back in 2012, but there's a history here that's not.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Mr. George is here, and he's fully cognizant of that, and that's why he brought his manager and the young lady just to say, look, we did it, and it was an isolated incident that happened with regard to this, not from before. We can't argue from before.
Okay, so based on that acknowledgement, I would impose a $1,500 fine, given the history of this licensee. And I will say that another sales to minor is very likely to be suspended. It's pretty serious stuff.
I concur with the imposition of a $1,500 fine with 30 days to pay.
30 days to pay.
I concur.
Thank you.
May I call exhibits for the record? Guam City Police Department report, Detective Vaughn.
Calling the next case, Dogan Salas, 1741 Corporation, trading as Home Slice, 1739 through 41 Light Street. There's a Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license, violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
All those who plan to testify, please come forward, raise your hand.
You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Again, for the record, Melvin J. Kudinski, this would be an admission. I think this is just, you can see this is not that kind of place where, young people are going to go to drink, and I said to him, what is the most important thing that I told you?
Cocktail people.
What? Extra cheese.
Extra cheese.
On the pizzas. But, that's the kind of thing that he'll remember that and forget. And I said, you got to have your people, check. And you can see that they've been there for a while, they haven't had it, and they caught him the wrong day. He's instructed his people, again, to make sure, no matter how many pizzas they order, when they order something to drink, they have to go ahead and check their cards.
Have they been, have his employees been certified?
He set up for some of them, because not all of them, the ones in the kitchen that don't serve, alcohol, the ones that are being involved in the service of alcohol, he's going to have them all certified.
Right.
Okay. Well, this is like the only place my daughter will eat your salad. She won't eat a salad anywhere else but Home Slice. You figure that out for me. But that's an aside. I'm digressing. I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, on April 9, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, April 9, 2019.
I concur to the findings.
Any additional mitigation, Mr. Kudinski?
Just what I mentioned before.
Great. So this license has been with the corporation since 2012. This is your first violation. I would impose a $350 fine.
I concur with the imposition of a $350 fine, 30 days to pay.
I concur.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
May I call exhibits for the record?
Yeah, you're good.
Guam City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Call the next case, Marla Streb, Nikki Incorporated, trading as Handlebar Cafe, 511 South Caroline Street. There's a Class B beer, wine, liquor license, violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Good afternoon. All those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name, sir?
My name is Mark Fitzgerald, I'm the manager.
Okay. And you, sir?
I'm David Reisch. I was a bartender.
Can you spell your last name, David?
That's R-E-I-S-C-H-E.
Okay. So you've been charged with sale to minor on February 27, 2019. Do you admit or do you deny that?
Deny it.
You deny it, okay. Who will testify? What will happen, Mr. Fitzgerald, is we'll have someone from either the police department or the liquor board testify to this set of facts. You can ask them questions. Commissioners will ask questions as well, and we'll come to some decision. Okay, so that's the next step of the process.
Is that going to happen now?
It's going to happen right now, before your eyes. Who's testifying on this matter?
Detective Wilson's, they have access to their report.
Okay, Detective.
From Baltimore City Police Department.
Can you, I'm not sure the court reporter heard your full name.
Detective Robert LeBrun, Baltimore City Police Department.
Thank you, Detective.
Use the microphone, Detective.
Sir, just hold on there. Sorry, folks, there's a lot of cases here. All right, I'm gonna use yours then. On 2/27/19 at 22:55 hours, Baltimore City Vice consisting of Detective Sergeant Chris Leiser, Detective Robert LeBrun, Detective L.C. Greenhill, and Detective A. Gatto, along with Agent Chris O'Malley of the Baltimore City Liquor Board, conducted an underage sales to a minor investigation at a Baltimore City restaurant bar known as Handlebar Cafe, located at 511 Caroline Street, which is located within the Baltimore City limits. Working with our two agencies was Baltimore City Cadet Nolan Clado, with a date of birth of 8/21/99. Upon further investigation at 22:55 hours, Cadet Clado entered Handlebar Cafe and purchased a Yingling beer draft. The alcoholic beverage was furnished with the understanding that Cadet Clado would pay for his beverage before he exited the location. This is known as starting a bar tab. After receiving the alcohol beverage, Cadet Clado notified Detective Sergeant Leiser via cell phone. At this time, myself, along with Detective Sergeant Leiser, Detective Greenhill, Detective Gatto, and Agent Chris O'Malley, entered the location and appropriately identified ourselves. The employee who sold Cadet Clado the alcohol beverage was identified via Maryland ID as Mr. David Reich, with a date of birth of 7/11/89. Same as an employee of Handlebar Cafe who was working the counter area. After Detective Greenhill collected all pertinent information, Mr. Reich who was cooperative, was informed by Agent Chris O'Malley that there would be no criminal charges, but an administrative report would be written and forwarded to the Baltimore City Liquor Board for further investigation and further administrative review. All events happened in the city of Baltimore, state of Maryland.
Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have any questions for?
Is the cadet here?
Cadet is present.
Cadet's present.
Where is he?
He's at the end of the.
Wait, you have to stay out of the.
That's fine.
It's the cameras.
Sure, that's fine. So it's my understanding, after looking at the videotapes, that the cadet approached the bar and asked for a beer. David, as he poured the beer, glanced and saw that the cadet made a motion in his pocket, which normally means you're grabbing your wallet. Okay? The drink was put on the bar, but there was no wallet with a credit card. We begin tabs with a credit card. We don't begin tabs without a credit card. And at 11 o'clock at night, there's no food sales. At 11 o'clock at night, we have mostly other bartenders and servers in the neighborhood coming in. So it's either cash or a credit card for those transactions. People don't run cash tabs anymore by putting a $100 bill on the bar top. They have a wallet with a credit card. And at that moment, that's when you can say, can I have an ID? That moment never happened. There was no payment for this. The detective said it was purchased, and in the same sentence he said a tab was begun. It's either one or the other. There is a purchase or there's not a purchase.
So
this was not a purchase.
Well, I take your point, except the rule says it allows for furnishing. So Mr. Reish, if I pronounce his name correctly, furnished the cadet.
I understand the furnishing, but in our minds, and I'm very strict about this, because a big problem is not getting paid for drinks.
Sure.
When there's other bartenders that are paying cash after their jobs at my place, if there's no cash, someone gets fired. And if I don't have a credit card for that tab, and the drinks on that tab match what's on the videotape, someone else gets fired. So in this instance, a tab wasn't begun because they came in too soon. You didn't take a sip of it, I saw that, you didn't even touch it.
Well, you may have to change your business practice, I think, because our rules are, if you furnish it, it's not payment, you furnished it. And that, in and of itself, is deemed under our rule as a sale to minor.
I recognize the word furnish is plain English, but just in the plain practical world, when someone goes like this, they're reaching in their pocket. It was just an assumption that there's going to be a wallet, and at that moment you can say, thank you for the credit card, can I see your ID? Because I need both to run a tab.
Okay, understood. You have any other questions?
That's it in our defense.
Understood. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Based upon the testimony evidence before us, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
I concur.
One second. There we go.
Yeah. I too find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
Now, Mr. Fitzgerald, so the next part of this is mitigation. If there's anything further you'd like to say before we assess a fine of any sort or impose a fine, I will say that this is your first violation.
It is.
So, and I can tell that you take this very seriously. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I believe I laid out all the mitigating circumstances already.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reese, do you have anything else to add?
No, just what he said.
Okay, thank you.
Were they cooperative?
Yes.
Yes, they were very cooperative.
Great, okay, thank you. Based upon the evidence before us, I would impose a $350 fine, given it's your first violation.
I concur with the imposition of a $350 fine. I also would suggest that you read the rules again, because it's still furnishing. That's a violation of the rules.
Certainly will.
I concur.
And if you need any information from us, please let us know. Mr. Alkheimer's in the back and can help you with any information you might need.
Last question, is just 3 days or 30 days to make the payment?
You have 30 days.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
For the record, Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Thank you. Sir?
Call the next case, Natalie DeFranceschi, Pig and Rooster Smokehouse LLC, trading as Pig and Rooster Smokehouse, 3242 Foster Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Good afternoon. All those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Stephen W. Fogelman, admission.
Words for us. Thank you. Okay. Based upon the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
I concur with the findings.
All right, thank you very much. This is a cute little restaurant just a block from my house off Clinton Street. The licensee, Natalie DeFrancesco, also resides on Clinton Street, less than a half a block from the bar, which I always like to give a medal for that, because that means they know what's going on at all times. In this case, and they've been open since 15 with no problems whatsoever. You live in that neighborhood, you probably would know if they were getting blown up with 311 complaints, things like that. Andrea Fozart was the bartender on duty at the time. She was devastated. She works at 3 different licensed beverage establishments in the city, and this is the first time this has happened to her. She was very devastated, and the licensee is still devastated and was tearing up before we came in here. She's doing better now. Just very upset about this lapse of the system. Clayto's good. He's good, and he gets lots of places. But they have learned so much from this, and it's a simple thing that if they're not regulars, if you don't recognize them and they look under 50, you card them. So they clearly have enough, and this is the second time in a week that I've seen her almost go to tears on this charge. So they're the kind of client that you don't think you're going to see back here, and I hope you'll consider that.
Sure. Well,
Thank you.
Cadet Clayto's been 20 for about 20 years, it looks like. Were they cooperative?
Yeah, they're cooperative at all their locations.
Okay, great. Okay. Since this is your first violation, I would impose a $350 fine.
I concur and impose a $350 fine
I concur.
with 30 days to pay.
30 days to pay. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
I'd call zips for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Calling the next case, Michelle Min and Young Suk Min, KYFC LLC, trading as Jazz and Soju, 900 Eastward Avenue. There's a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Good afternoon. All those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Julian Kim is here on behalf of his, Julian Min is here on behalf of his spouse, Michelle Min, who cannot be here today, and she's authorized him to be here in this situation.
Mr. Fogelman, will this be an admission?
This is an admission.
Great. Based on the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27th, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
I concur with the findings.
Mr. Fogelman?
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Min and Young's basically have run a wonderful place, Jazz and Soju. Interestingly enough, it is known as a cop bar. Many of their clientele are police, and that is one of the reasons that the system failed on this night, because in fact, Cadet Clayto looks like police because he is police and his dad was police. So they need to change their system too, and they need to go ahead and make sure that they card anybody that they don't recognize under the age of 50. And I don't think that Detective Men here, as you know, is a clinical psychologist with the criminal division, homicide division of the Baltimore Police Department. They don't have any margin. They don't have any room for misconduct at this place. They want to run the best place in South Baltimore. And so they're a little humbled by this experience, but it is a great learning experience, and they will not make that mistake again.
Great. Were they cooperative? Extremely. Great. Thank you. Since this is your first violation, I would impose a fine of $350.
I concur and impose a fine of $350 with 30 days to pay.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call zips for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Data.
Calling the next case, Craig A. Mex Incorporated, trading as Schaefer's Bar and Restaurant, 121 West Randall Street. It's a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minor.
Good afternoon. All those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do. Okay. Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you, Stephen W. Fogelman. This is an admission.
Great. Based upon the admission, then, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27th, 2019.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on February 27, 2019.
I concur with the findings.
Mr. Fogelman?
Yes, thank you. This is a part of South Baltimore history. This place is. Schaefer's was the second liquor license issued after Prohibition to Clay and Leona Schaefer in 1934. It was not affiliated with William Donald Schaefer, but became a hub for politicians like Soft Shoes McGurk, a political boss from South Baltimore, and even William Donald Schaefer himself would come and dine there and wheel and deal there. Mr. Meck has owned the business since 2001 for 18 years with zero violations whatsoever. In this case, Melissa Taylor, the employee, was a single mother with 2 children. He did not fire her. She was extremely upset and believed that that's a good employee to have rather than hire somebody fresh off the street with nobody who understands the gravity of these kind of situations. He also, before that, owned a place in Curtis Bay for 8 years in the early 80s with no violations whatsoever. His health hasn't been great lately, and so that's why he hasn't been full-time at the bar. He's only the fourth owner of the bar in the 81-year or 85-year history. I would ask you, based on the extremely great record for 18-plus years, that you would consider suspending a fine in this matter.
Okay. Were they cooperative?
Extreme.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Questions?
Based upon your 18-year history, your other licensee, another licensee at another place, I would impose a $150 fine with 30 days to pay, given the history here.
Thank you.
I concur, and given this good history, I concur with the $150 fine, 30 days to pay.
I concur with the findings and the fine allotment of $100.
$150.
150.
$150 for the
He's going low.
violation of 4.01.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Gatto.
Call next case. Waleed Farousi and Mike Jasiri, Walfar Incorporated, trading as J&J Bar Liquors, 1801 Ramsey Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mr.
For the
Kudinski?
record, Melvin J. Kudinski. This would be an admission.
Great. Okay. Based upon the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, on April 9th, 2019.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors, on April 9, 2019.
I concur with the findings.
Mr. Kudinski?
As you can see, this is the first time they ever have a serving minors. They had a prior case about 2 years ago, had to do with operating the bar, but this is the first case they have for serving minors since the license was transferred in 2013. When having the manager here, he had just finished his shift, waiting for somebody else, and a friend of his was trying to be helpful to him. He was not very helpful at this point. He jumped in and didn't check like he was supposed to. Since that time, he's been told he understands, friend or no friend, everybody has to make the check. Otherwise, you won't be in this problem anymore before.
Great. Were they cooperative?
Yes.
Great. Based upon your proffer, Mr. Kudinski, I would, in the history, there is one previous violation, not a sales to minor, but open and operating. I would impose a $500 fine.
I concur with the imposition of a $500 fine with 30 days to pay.
I concur.
Thank you.
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Calling next case, Laura Summerson, The Backyard X LLC, trading as The Backyard, 131 South Schroeder Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, liquor license, violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors.
Good afternoon. All those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name?
Michael Kavanaugh?
Okay, and ma'am?
Laura Summerson.
Ms. Summerson, you are the licensee, right? Okay. So the way this process works, I'm sure you've been watching and see it, but I like to explain it when you don't have counsel, is this will be an admission or denial. You pick. If it's an admission, we'll move forward with a finding, and we'll go into mitigation. You'll tell me anything that we should know. If it's a denial, then either the detective or the agent will go through the evidence, and you're free to ask questions. So will this be an admission or a denial?
Admission.
Okay, great. Based upon the admission, I find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on April 9th, 2019.
I concur and find a violation of Rule 4.01A, sales to minors on April 9, 2019.
I concur with the findings.
Great. So I do note that you've had this license, Ms. Summerson, since August of 2018, roughly.
Yep.
And this is, in fact, your first violation. Is there anything more you'd like to tell us?
Well, I wasn't there, so can Michael speak to the event?
Absolutely, Michael can.
Yeah, I was the manager on duty. We had a trainee that was the bartender. Obviously, we didn't do a great job with training him to check IDs. He has since been put on probation. We'd like to hire him, but we wanted to have this hearing first to see what the board ruled. In the meantime, I have attended TIPS training. This was past Monday, so I didn't have the certification to show you. But we do take this very seriously. If we do bring on Mr. Ruiz, he will also attend TIPS training as well.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. That's good. Those are good measures to take. Commissioners, any other questions?
None.
No.
Were they cooperative?
Yes.
Okay, great. Based upon the lack of, the fact that this is your first violation, I would impose a $350 fine
I concur with the imposition of a $350 fine.
with 30 days to pay.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective LeBron.
Calling the next case, Tanya Williams Kosh, Mystic T&M Incorporated, trading as Mystic Tavern, 2949 Frederick Avenue. It's a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, and a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct.
All those, okay, all those who intend to testify in this matter, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. And your name, sir?
Kosh.
Marvin Kosh. K-O-S-H. And you, sir?
Kawan Salter.
First name?
Kawan.
Kawan Salt, S-A-L-T-E-R?
Yes, sir.
Great. All right, so you have these charges before you with respect to general welfare and illegal conduct. Do you, the way this works, I know you've been sitting here, so.
Quick question, Commissioner. I have a lawyer, attorney supposed to be on his way here.
Okay, would you like?
Never done.
Okay, but your attorney's not here presently.
Right now.
Okay, so if we could, well, we have one other case. I'm happy to set this back till after this case.
That's fine.
So hopefully that your attorney will be here shortly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Calling the next matter, Bijou Penland, Lindsay Perez, and Blanca Pesquera, Ecstasy Bar and Restaurant LLC, trading as My Cousin's Place, 3925 through 27 East Lombard Street. Is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.08A, relations with wholesalers.
Okay, all those who plan to testify, please come forward and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky. Let me say this, and then, do you have the rule in front of you? Does somebody have the rule?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. I think the rule is unenforceable.
You think the rule is
Yeah,
unenforceable?
yeah. And the way I'm saying this, I'm not going to read anything. It says a licensee may not allow, the licensee may not purchase alcoholic beverages except from a licensed manufacturer or wholesaler. Does that really make any sense? I mean, I'm going home for a birthday party. I'm a licensee. I'm going to make sangria, and I stop by King's Liquors. I can't buy it.
I'm not here to debate the
No.
rule,
Well,
but
I'm
there are
making a
license-
motion for the record. I
Oh,
just got to
see. Oh, gotcha.
preserve it. Yeah.
Understood.
So, I mean, it makes no sense that I can't do that and be restrictive, where, say, you were going home, you could stop by and go ahead and do that. I think the rule was made more, and it's a really nonsensical rule, because you pay tax. If you buy from another retailer, you pay tax, and you pay tax again. They're trying to keep track that you would just buy things from from wholesalers, not their own. But in this case here, I don't know if there was, and I'll let the inspector testify, but I like to think that rule, it's like spinning wheels, or what do you call them? What's the standard for spinning wheels if you're driving a car? There is no standard. wet, dry, spin once, twice. It's not an enforceable type rule. I'm finished with it.
Yeah, I'm going to deny your motion. I think that the idea of the rules is that it's within their capacity as licensees specifically and not necessarily outside of their role as licensees. I don't know that you can say that. I mean, I'm going to deny. They're in their role as a licensee. They're not. When they go home, they can go to a retail shop and buy a bottle of wine for home use. I think they're two different.
It should say that, though.
Okay, well, maybe
No,
maybe in
just-
the rewrite.
No, I was on the Rules Committee. I
Right.
wouldn't.
Right.
Mine again?
Did you raise the issue then?
No, because I never did.
Well, I'm going to deny because I think you did a great job. Will this be? Will this be?
Just asked a few questions.
So this will be denial. Why don't we go through? Perez, thank you.
Agent Perez, Baltimore City Liquor Board. December 14th, approximately 8 p.m., I, Agent Perez, while on duty, was driving south on Grundy Street when I observed employees from my cousin's place located at 2925-27 East Lombard Street unloading several cases of Bud Light beer and a bus containing several bottles of liquor to include Grey Goose, vodka, and 1800 tequila being unloaded from a white Toyota pickup truck. After making these observations, I made contact with the manager/DJ, Mr. Noy, and requested to see purchase receipts for the alcoholic beverage that had been just taken into my cousin's place. At this time, Mr. Noy disclosed that he had just purchased the alcoholic beverages from King's Discount Liquor, located on Pulaski Highway in Baltimore County. I informed Mr. Noy that he was in violation of the Baltimore City Liquor Board rules and regulations for purchasing alcoholic beverage from other than a licensed wholesaler. In addition to the violation, I also made Mr. Noy aware that all of his alcoholic beverage purchases should come directly from a licensed manufacturer or wholesaler.
And just real quick, he's not the licensee,
No, he's not.
okay? And did you actually see them take the product into the location?
Yes, I did, before I got out of my car.
And then where did you see it next?
I didn't go inside the establishment.
Oh, so you didn't see it?
I just saw the products being taken into the
All
establishment.
right. But there was any way to verify what was taken in was the same thing that you saw?
I made all the observations from where it was taken out of the truck into the establishment.
All right. And then, but he's not, this is gentleman here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you say no home, I'm asking him. But he's not the licensee.
He's not.
Okay, and you didn't see any sale?
I didn't go inside the
No,
establishment.
I got it, I mean, we're just trying to get a little clarified, because I don't like the rule to start with, so, and I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
No questions.
None.
Based upon the evidence, I find a violation of Rule 4.018, relations with wholesalers on December 14, 2018.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.08A, Relations with Wholesalers, December 14, 2018.
I concur with the findings.
Mr. Kudensky, anything in mitigation?
Yeah, well, let's take it to the fact that maybe that did happen. A lot of times in these smaller places, they have what they call a case of the shorts, where they run out of something and they just can't go and get 2 bottles of Grey Goose, or, 1 case of Bud Light or something. And they have customers coming in and the only place they can go, they can try to borrow from another retailer. But then the question there, that's problematic on the thing. I always look at this, after all these years as being a de minimis type of violation, and no harm, no foul. Nobody really gets hurt by it. It's not diluting. It's not refilling. They're paying double tax. They're really dumb for doing it.
Were they cooperative?
Yes, they were.
Okay. All right, so they've had the license since not quite 3 years, and they have, Mr. Kudensky, as you know, a very checkered past here.
But nothing like with this. Usually it was dealing with people, patrons, minors, things that are happening in the place. This is sort of outside the realm of, having any one-on-one contact with any type of customer or the police department, stuff like that. And probably 5 minutes either way, nobody would know the better. But
Despite your liquor law theory of case of the shorts, do we think that they'll do this again?
not now, after I explained to them, they shouldn't. I said, if you have to, do without it. Don't use that now.
No, it's yours. I'll give you all praise on that. All right, so Based upon the evidence testimony, I would impose a $1,000 fine. 30 days to pay.
Given your testimony, and while I understand your defense, Mr. Kudinski, this is not the best history, and they've only had the license for a couple of years now, so I agree with the imposition of a $1,000 fine.
I concur as well.
30 days to pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And call exhibit for the record, Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Agent Perez.
Recalling Tanya Williams Kosh, Mystic T&M Incorporated, trading as Mystic Tavern, 2949 Frederick Avenue. Violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, and a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct.
Mr. Kosh, have you heard from your counsel?
No, I tried to get in, that was me trying to get in touch with him on the phone, and apologize for that, though.
That's okay. Okay, he or she knows that we start at 1 or 1:15 today. Okay. Unless the commissioners disagree, and assuming Mr. Akris it's allowable, I would have no problem granting a postponement given the case and the fact that they have an attorney. Is that something I can do?
That's something you can do on the record if there's a request by.
So, Commissioner, would you like to make a request to postpone this matter and so that your counsel?
Yes.
And can you tell us the name of your counsel, sir?
Russell Nevadon.
Okay.
I recognize that name.
He used to work for the liquor board.
Okay. So you're making a request for postponement?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any concerns with granting such an?
None.
No, I don't.
Okay, so based upon your request, Mr. Kosh, and we will grant the postponement request, and it will be reset back in. Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it, thanks. Can I get it in the mail?
What's that?
We get it in the mail?
Yeah, you'll get a notice. Well, hopefully our systems will allow it. I don't know how we're doing that now, given the.
We're going to personally serve the establishment when the case is reset for a hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the afternoon docket. The board will be in recess until May 30th, 2019.